Though not all agree, video games can be considered as being a new art form. Moreover, video games are seen by many as a form of art with which one can actively interact. From the breathtaking landscapes, to the incredible soundtracks and general atmosphere, as well as the enticing plot, some video games can bring together much of what other mediums already have. In fact, some video games out there were inspired by various best-selling novels, or in turn generated a whole book series with thousands of fans of their own. Some video games have even inspired movies. Be it a strategy game, a shooter, or a role-playing game, it doesn't really matter as long as it has a good backstory, a whole universe, and an extensive lore surrounding it. Here are 10 such video games, even though many others also deserve a spot in this list. Number 10. Call of Cthulhu, Dark Corners of the Earth. Developed by Headfirst Productions and published by Bethesda Softworks, Call of Cthulhu, Dark Corners of the Earth was released in 2005. First came the Xbox version, and then a PC version 1 year later. The game is an action-adventure/survival/horror genre that perfectly combines a first-person perspective with many stealth elements. The story is set mostly in 1922 and follows a mentally unstable private detective hired to investigate the fictional town of Innsmouth, Massachusetts. Unlike many other FPS games, Call of Cthulhu features no heads-up display, and everything from the player's condition to his ammunition and other stats are represented as realistically as possible. A broken leg, for example, would be shown as the character limping, while a broken arm by a loss in accuracy. Each injury needs its own type of remedy and the player even needs to count the ammunition he's got left. All in all, the game received only positive reviews from critics and was considered by some to be among the best horror video games of all time. However, the game itself was an economic failure, with the planned sequels being cancelled when Headfirst Productions went under. In recent years there has been a revival of the series, and in 2017 a new video game is expected to be released. Dark Corners of the Earth is inspired on H.P. Lovecraft's 1936 novella, The Shadow over Innsmouth. Lovecraft was also author of the Call of Cthulhu and several other related stories, all within the Cthulhu mythos. A recurring theme in Lovecraft's works is the complete irrelevance of mankind in the face of the cosmic horrors that exist in the universe. Cthulhu himself and other cosmic deities exist, but have fallen into a death-like sleep. After Lovecraft's death in 1937, August Derleth took on the challenge to synthesize and expand the Cthulhu mythos. Number 9. Mass Effect. Mass Effect is a sci-fi/action/role-playing/third-person shooter first released in 2007. Two later installments came out in 2010 and 2012. A fourth game is expected to be released sometime in 2017. If you're a fan of this style of video games, it's almost an impossibility to have not already heard about or played Mass Effect. Developed by BioWare, the trilogy starts off in the year 2183 and revolves around Commander Shepard, who's entrusted to save the entire Milky Way galaxy and all its inhabitants from a mysterious and overwhelmingly powerful race of machine beings known as the Reapers. And while the plot and story itself are quite complex and enticing, there is an extensive lore surrounding the game series. To date there are 4 novels centered on various protagonists other than the ones in the video game. But the plots take place around the time of the games themselves. These not only better explain ambiguous facts from the game, but also expand the history of the Mass Effect universe. A 5th novel, Mass Effect: Andromeda Initiation, is set to be published sometime in 2016. 2 more books are scheduled for 2017 and 2018. There is also a fan-written, interactive novel circulating out there called Mass Effect: Pick Your Path, from 2012, as well as numerous other comics. Also in 2012, an anime film version was released, and there are even talks of a Hollywood production in the works. Number 8. Mortal Kombat. This fighting game has been around for a very long time. Originally developed by Midway Games, Mortal Kombat hit the arcades back in 1991. Its idea was thought up even earlier, in 1989, along with its storyline and game content. Mortal Kombat is a fantasy, horror-themed fighting game, renowned for its high levels of gore and bloody violence. One of its most notorious parts, the finishing moves, also known as fatalities, are in part responsible for the founding of the ESRB, Entertainment Software Rating Board. Modeled after movies like Bloodsport and Enter the Dragon, Mortal Kombat aimed to be a bit more realistic and serious than its cartoon fantasy-style counterpart, Street Fighter. After Midway's bankruptcy, Mortal Kombat was bought by Warner Bros. And rebooted in 2011. The game became highly popular among young people and is now one of the few successful fighting franchises in the history of video games. Since its inception it has spun off into a series of comic books, card games, a theatrical live tour, countless game sequels, 2 TV series, and 2 movies. These 2 major motion pictures, Mortal Kombat, 1995, and Mortal Kombat, Annihilation, 1997, grossed in $122.51 million, respectively. While not particularly good, the movies gathered a cult following, especially the first one. The second installment, however, was poorly received by both critics and fans alike, resulting in it bombing at the box office. Though entirely unofficial, an 8-minute short film was released back in 2010, revealing that a new Mortal Kombat movie is being planned in Hollywood. Number 7. Warhammer 40K. Without a doubt, the Warhammer 40K franchise has among the richest lore and backstory in video game history. That's because the whole idea of this fictional universe first came into being way back in 1983. Back then, the game was known simply as Warhammer, and was created by Games Workshop as a tabletop war game. That game still exists, and continues to expand even to this day. Then in 1987, a futuristic version was developed, sharing many of the game mechanics. This is the 40K, which stands for the year in which the fictional action now takes place. We won't bother going into detail with the original Warhammer games, since they deserve a top 10 list of their own, and instead try to focus on what's at hand, namely their video game versions of the 40K universe. The story takes place during the 41st millennium in a fictional, Gothic-looking dystopian universe. The Imperium of Man, as it is called, is a galaxy-spanning human interstellar empire, dominating most of the Milky Way, though it's not the only power out there. The most iconic and finest warriors of the Imperium are the Space Marines, a combination between sci-fi super soldiers and fantasy knights, who are sworn to defend their empire from all the other alien races in the galaxy. The Warhammer 40K universe has a total of 31 different style video games. The most notable of these are 8 real-time strategy games and expansions, part of the Dawn of War series. 4 novels have been published alongside this series, somewhat following and better explaining the actions taking place in the games. But the entire list of novels, novellas and other short stories surrounding the 40K universe is humongous, enough to completely fill up a big personal library. And that's without mentioning its comic book series. In 2010 the CGI Ultramarines, a Warhammer 40,000 movie was released to DVD. Terrence Stamp, John Hurt, and Donald Sumter, among others, voiced some of the Space Marines. Number 6. Resident Evil. Making its debut in 1996, the Resident Evil series first appeared for the PlayStation. Initially called Biohazard in Japan, its country of origin, Capcom's director decided to change its name since it was impossible to trademark it in the US. An internal contest was held within the company regarding the game's name, finally settling on Resident Evil. Even though the director believed it to be super cheesy, it makes reference to the original game, which took place in a mansion filled with evil monsters. In its 20 years of existence, the franchise has expanded into 11 main games and 22 other spin-offs. As of 2015, Resident Evil has sold over 61 million units worldwide. Originally, the game series was more of a survival horror genre, based mostly on horror film plot lines, exploration and puzzle solving. Since Resident Evil 4, however, the series took on a more third-person shooter approach, focusing on gunplay and weapon upgrades. The plot revolves around the sinister Umbrella Corporation, a worldwide company with ties to every major industry, and which secretly makes extensive research into bioengineering. More exactly, they are aiming to create an extremely potent virus that can transform any individual into a super powerful, yet perfectly obedient being. However, most of these experiments were wildly unsuccessful and have backfired with some truly gruesome results. In their several attempts to create the perfect weapon, the Umbrella Corporation initiated a series of viral outbreaks and mass infection of the civilian population, transforming humans and animals into mindlessly aggressive zombies. Players take on the role of various characters trying to survive and unravel the corporation's many secrets. The Resident Evil movie series loosely follows the same plot, even though much of the original content is missing or has been changed. The main protagonist, Alice, played by Milla Jovovich, was a security operative working for Umbrella. But with the start of the first movie, she becomes an enemy of the corporation. Though the movie received poor reviews from critics and fans alike, mostly because of the inconsistencies between it and the game series, the Resident Evil film tripled its budget, and got 4 more sequels over a span of 10 years. A last installment, Resident Evil: The Final Chapter, is set to premiere in 2017. A more faithful CGI animated movie series also exists, and another film, Resident Evil: Vendetta, will also be released next year. Moreover, the franchise also has its own 7-book series. Number 5. Halo. Halo is a sci-fi/first-person shooter franchise set in the 26th century, in which humanity has achieved faster-than-light travel speed and colonized numerous other planets across the Milky Way. The series centers itself on an interstellar war between humans and an alliance of aliens known as the Covenant, also inhabiting the galaxy. The player takes on the role of Master Chief John 117, a member of a group of super soldiers known as the Spartans. Since its first release in 2001 with Halo: Combat Evolved, the franchise has been praised by many and is considered to be among the best FPS video games played on a console. Managed and developed by Microsoft Studios under one of its subsidiaries, 343 Industries, Halo benefited from a tremendous marketing campaign and 4 more original sequels and their respective DLCs. In total, the franchise sold over 65 million copies and earned a record-breaking $3.4 billion from the games alone. These incredible sales and its increasing fandom have allowed Halo to expand into other media as well. Besides the various spin-offs of the game, including a real-time strategy installment entitled Halo Wars, the franchise boasts its own 5-part TV miniseries, called Halo 4: Forward Unto Dawn, released in 2012. Another miniseries was released in 2014, called Halo: Nightfall. A full-length movie adaptation was set in motion back in 2005 by 20th Century Fox and Universal Studios, but due to financial reasons, the project was dropped 2 years later. However, a future TV show on Showtime is said to be in development, though the exact details of the production are still largely unknown. In any case, up until that moment arises, fans of the video game series can also expand their knowledge of the Halo universe by taking a look at its 13-novel canon. Number 4. The Witcher. The Witcher started off as a series of fantasy short stories written by Andrzej Sapkowski, which are now collected into 2 books. The first of these stories, entitled simply The Witcher, was written in 1986 as part of a contest held by a magazine, winning third place. The subsequent 5 novels, which became known as the Witcher Saga, were written and published throughout the 1990s in Poland, and later translated into English and other languages. Before gaining international notoriety with the release of the first video game in 2007, the saga was adapted into a movie and television series in 2001 and 2002, respectively, with both being called The Hexer. In fact, this was the preferred translation of the first story's title by the author. But with the release of the first video game, however, the publishing company CD Projekt Red decided on the name Witcher instead. With 2 more video games in the series, the story follows the Witcher, Geralt of Rivia, a sort of traveling monster hunter for hire, as he struggles to regain his memories and prevent the destruction of the world. Set in a medieval fantasy universe, The Witcher is an action, role-playing hack-and-slash video game. The use of Geralt's amnesia in the game allows the player to make decisions that the character from the books would not have necessarily made. It also permitted the developers to introduce those who weren't familiar with the backstory with certain aspects of the Witcher canon. Sapkowski uses a tone that is slightly ironic and with subtle links to modern culture in the books, which are also apparent in the games. Unlike most other similar fantasy stories, The Witcher also emphasizes the duality of human nature, with nobody being 100% good or bad. These aspects have helped both the novels and the video games to be widely claimed by fans as the best of Polish fantasy. Back in 2011, President Obama received a copy of The Witcher 2, Assassins of Kings video game from the Polish Prime Minister in one of his visits to the country. Obama later confessed that he didn't actually play it. Number 3. Assassin's Creed. Another video game series that's made frequent headlines in recent years is the Assassin's Creed franchise. With a movie set to be released in December, the series made its debut in 2007, and has since released another 8 sequels, 17 spin-offs, several short films, as well as a number of other supporting materials. Developed predominantly by Ubisoft, the various games can be played on almost every platform conceivable, and its gameplay, varying only slightly from game to game, is set in the historic action-adventure genre, with a particular emphasis on combat, acrobatics, free running, and stealth. The protagonist of each sequel changes, as the action takes place in different moments and locations throughout history, from the time of the Third Crusade, to the Renaissance period, the colonial era, the French Revolution, and the Victorian era among others. The overall plot of the series revolves around the centuries-old, fictional struggle between the historically accurate Order of Assassins and the Knights Templar, who each desire world peace but through different means and ideologies. On the one hand, the Assassins believe in peace through free will, while the Templars consider it achievable only through world domination. Inspiration for the games came from a Slovenian novel, Alamet, written by Vladimir Bardo, as well as from concepts borrowed from the Prince of Persia series. In all, the Assassin's Creed series has been very well received by critics and fans alike, and as of April 2014 over 73 million copies have been sold, making it Ubisoft's best-selling franchise. Aside from the comics, Assassin's Creed also has a book series. Each of the 8 novels are tie-ins to their respective video games, following the various assassins throughout the centuries, in their ongoing war with the Templars. Number 2. Warcraft. No list like this is complete without mentioning the Warcraft universe. Developed by Blizzard Entertainment, the franchise is made up of 5 core games, the most notable of which are Warcraft 3, Reign of Chaos, a real-time strategy game, and its expansion pack The Frozen Throne, as well as the infamous World of Warcraft, WoW, a massive multiplayer online role-playing game, _spell_merc_, and best-selling title here. At its peak in 2010, WoW had 12 million simultaneous subscribers worldwide, becoming the world's largest subscription-based _spell_merc_. The latest title in the series, Hearthstone, Heroes of Warcraft, is a digital collectible card game. Another notable game in the franchise, though only a mod for Warcraft 3, is Defense of the Ancients, Dota, a multiplayer online battle arena. In this game, two teams of players are pitted against each other in an attempt to destroy the enemy's heavily guarded structures at opposing corners of the map. All of the games in the series are set in or around the high fantasy world of Azeroth. The story begins by focusing on the human nations that make up the Eastern Kingdoms and the Orcish horde that arrived to Azeroth through a dark portal, igniting the Great Wars between the two. Over the years, and with the subsequent game releases, the developers have expanded the planet by creating new continents. With them, there's been the emergence of other new playable races. Unsurprisingly, the series has since spawned its own sizable collection of novels, covering a broad range of characters in various timelines, vastly expanding the lore and backstory of the Warcraft universe. Many comics have also been published alongside these books, delving even further into the canon. In June 2016, its first Hollywood movie was released by Universal Pictures. With only 5.5 million subscribers to WoW as of 2015, the film arrived a little too late, and bombed in the US. However, it did manage to gross over $422 million worldwide, making it the highest-grossing game adaptation of all time. Number 1. Neverwinter Nights. Neverwinter Nights is a third-person role-playing video game developed by BioWare, and was released in 2002. In the following years the game got several expansions and premium packs, and due to its growing popularity, a sequel was released in 2006. It, too, had its own series of expansions. The story follows the player's character as he tries to stop a plague from sweeping over the city of Neverwinter. The city is located along the Sword Coast of Faerun, in the Forgotten Realms campaign setting of Dungeons & Dragons. As it is in the original tabletop D&D games, players of Neverwinter Nights are able to create their own character from scratch at the very beginning of the game. Everything from gender, race, character class, alignment, abilities, and name can be customized to suit the preferences of each individual player. Overall, the video game was met with positive reviews and universal acclaim. GameSpot referred to it as one of those exceedingly rare games that has a lot to offer virtually everyone, even if they aren't already into RPGs, while PC Gamer called it a total package, a PC gaming classic for the ages, and said that its storyline is as persuasive as any I've encountered in a fantasy role-playing game. It has its own collection of books entitled The Neverwinter Saga, written by R.A. Salvatore, which is made up of 4 novels. However, these are only the tip of the iceberg in terms of literature surrounding the Forgotten Realms universe, since the saga itself is just part of an even larger, Legend of Drizzt series. And for those who really want to immerse themselves into the canon of the realms and probably never emerge out again, the entire book series is a whopping 302 novels.